What's up YouTube? My name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. Today is Monday. I've only got like an hour so I can put into this today, so more will happen later on during the week. But the job at hand is to finish off making this seat hoop. If you saw the last video, you'll know that I can't do what I want to do in the tube bender just because the sides clatter on the supporting bars and stuff, and it's not great. So the plan is that I'm going to chop it off here, remake these pieces, join them together, stick it on, jobs are good. So if you look at this as we speak, I want to put this little curve, this little kink into the bar so we can get the end of it set where we want to, about there, and the width of the seat hoop is the same width as the frame here, so I can tack it in place. Put the supporting bars in, and then I can tack it all in place, make sure it looks good. Once we get the okay from Steve-O, I'll fully weld it all and jobs are good. I did have another thought. He's not going to like it, but it's another thought. I could just, instead of putting the little kink in here, I could take the bars straight and then kick them out at the last minute to meet up with these. And I can do it using the same radius as we've got for the die that we made the back end of the hoop with. And I've got a couple that I've already made. I'll just have to chop it off here and here, stick it on there, and jobs are good. And it probably wouldn't look that bad. I really want to do it. I do not want him to pick this one, but in all good conscience I can't. I could get away with it if it looked alright. No. So tempting. I'm not going to do that, however much I want to. I'm going to leave that one intact because then he can make a decision, and he can make it based on what he sees in front of him rather than imagining that bit stuck back together again. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to remake this bit. I'll measure it all up. I'm going to put another bracing beam back in here again, so it keeps all the distances exactly the same, so nothing moves. Then I'll chop it off. I'll remake this, get it all coated and cut to the right length and blah 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 blah, and then we'll just crack on and get it fitted. This is gonna, I've only got like an hour that I can put into this today, so we'll see how far we get, and I'll finish off the rest of it during the week. And because Saturday we're not in here, we're going to be doing something else. So I need to get this done this week. So anyway, back to the tube bender. Oh yeah, forgot to mention about his engine. So I can't remember if that was there or not. I need to have a look see. But what the problem was this AN fitting, this one here, was actually loose. So you wobble it and oil was dripping off here. You can see it's, I'm not sure he wiped it all clean. But that's where the oil was coming from. If you look at the engine, I'm not sure if you can see this, it's not in great shape. It has been painted before, you can tell, because there's runs in it. And it is kind of pitted and a bit nasty looking and everything else. You did put some of that paint stripper on here just to see if the paint was just going to fall on the floor, and it, well, in places it's down to metal, but largely no. And when you look at the whole of the engine, that's a big complicated thing to go around with a toothbrush and get all the paint off and degrease it properly and everything else. So Steve-O has a cunning plan. He's been doing some grubbing about on the internet, and he's found that there is a company pretty local to us actually that does vapor blasting, which is like shot blasting, sand blasting, but it uses basically you throw water in the mix with the media that you use and turn it into this sort of slurry, and it blasts it off. It's kind of, it leaves a much brighter, nicer finish than just sandblasting alone. I'm not sure what pressures it runs under or anything else, but this engine could be a prime candidate for that, because it's like all over it. It's a bit, I don't know if Steve-O did this or not, but if he did a crap job, because it's manky as hell. This is too big and too heavy to go into my blasting cabinet, which is there. It ain't gonna fit. So it's either dry blast it just in a room with a sandblaster, or maybe this vapor blasting thing. You need to find out what prep we need to do, or if they do it all, because like the exhaust ports and the inlet tracks and breathers and all that kind of stuff is all going to need to be bunged up, because we don't want anything getting inside this engine. The engine mechanically is sorted. It was all stripped down, all the tolerances checked, bearings, gaskets, all that stuff replaced, so it is good to go. It's just, it looks like a turd. Just all this is horrible. Runs in it, you know, nasty bits and stuff. I have to admit, I'm not a massive fan of just spray painting an engine whilst it's all together. If you look at something like Matt makes good reference to it, as do a few others, but there's, if you want to dress all the cases and everything else up and do a proper job, you really need to split the cases. Because if you're just going to paint over the entire engine, you're also going to be painting over all the bolts that are sticking out. Like here. I mean, there's hundreds of the buggers. Trouble is, once it's all painted and everything else, as soon as you put a socket on that to do any work and undo it, you're going to chip all the paint off and it's going to look like rubbish again. So really the cases should be split, but there's no point in doing that on this engine, because the engine's all been sorted. Mechanically it is sound as, we just need to pretty it up. So what he's talking about doing is getting it vapor blasted, then he'll VHT prime it and get it spray painted as well. So that will hopefully sort the engine out. Right, so this is the only bit of tube that we've got left. No pressure. What does it measure out? About 127. Right, so looking at the bike, we are going to need about 400 mil. Yeah, about 400 mil. I'll put a kink in it. So we've got enough tube to cock it up once. The bits I've just lopped off, we will probably be able to reuse anyway for the side stays and whatnot. But yeah, there's nothing like cutting it down to the bare minimum, is there? So it kind of kicks out nicely. I'll be leaving a gap here anyway, but whilst I'm measuring up, I want to keep it nice and tight. Reason for the gap is just so I can get like a really good weld, so it hits this tube, the inside tube and this tube as well. The inside tube is basically just to align it and to give it some additional strength. So it's just a really good way of doing it basically. What we'll do is we'll clamp these so they're all absolutely true. But I want to get a measurement so I know quite where we're going to land on this. So from where it's going to join the seat hoop, the frame, to middle of the axle is about, I don't know, maybe a little bit past because of the kick up. So we'll say 66 centimetres. So let's put a square in here. That's my start point. 66 centimetres. Down the centre of the tube gets us to about here. Doesn't need to be exact, not at this point, but it will need to later on. There's a rough idea. The distance from the centre line of the tube across my mark to the centre line of the tube is currently about centre line to centre line 230. Sorry. Yeah, 230 mil. Distance across the frame, centre to centre, about 245. I know that these bends are exactly the same because I measured them. You basically put them one over top and you use square blocks in various places to make sure that you're touching both the top and bottom tube, because you stack that one on top of this one. Blocks either side. It helps to have either end and in the middle, but these are absolutely spot on. But we do need to open this up a little bit. So if I was to keep measuring this, so we know centre to centre is like 230 there. If I come back a bit more, about there, about there is 245. So I'm just going to put another mark here, an arrow, so I know which one it is. And then by taking this distance here and cutting it off the end of the tube here, essentially it's going to move the whole thing back, and then the opening will move back with it, obviously, and it'll be 245. Result! That's how we're going to do it. Okay, so the sleeve is in the middle. I've beveled both of the tubes on the seat hoop, so you get like a 90-degree infill basically. It just means that I can hit the all three tubes when I weld it and get a really good strong weld. The other thing that I've done is I've taken a piece of angle like this, just a piece of box section that's cut up, and I've clamped it either side with a set of mole grips. And all this does is it helps to align the two bars, the two tubes, so they're perfectly in line when you come to tack it all together. As you weld stuff, it will move if you've not done it before. If you put your hand on the join or the whatever it is that you're welding, and you just zap a tack on it, you'll feel it shift slightly, and it tends to pull towards the direction that you put the tack on. So what we'll be doing in these is putting 4 tacks on, and they'll be sort of in quadrants, so 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock basically. And once all 4 are in place, should hold everything in place just so nothing shifts when I go around and do the seam weld. This one obviously hasn't been clamped or anything else, and you can probably see it's not absolutely dead true. There's also a couple of holes in there, top and bottom. These are just so I can do a plug weld. The sleeve that's inside goes past those, so as well as hitting it on the join in the middle, I'll also be securing it through these holes, and it'll all become so much stronger. This middle bar obviously is going to disappear once it's all together, and at the minute it's all kind of weighted down and held in place and everything else. If you look at it from the top, I can't see, I'm guessing, so if it's off I do apologise, but you start to get the sense as to what the seat hoop is going to look like, which I reckon will be alright. These are the lines where we're probably going to end up cutting it off and starting the coping. So we're actually doing pretty good. It's all coming together, and it's coming together a lot quicker now that Steve-O's not here to help, which is weird. Well, it's welded and it's on. It's still really hot as well, so I ain't touching that bit. There's slightly power on one side now. It doesn't matter though, it's just a spacer that'll be coming out, and that'll be getting replaced with another piece of this. There'll probably be one there, another one about here, something like that anyway. The marks that we've got here and here, if I was to chop it off there at the top, then it would meet up with the centre of this down tube, which is obviously what I want. So I'm going to let this cool down just for a little bit, because I ain't touching it. I've done that before. And then we'll figure out the angle that this needs to be cut at. So we've got to get it all set to the right height. We'll get the angle gauge, put it in here, find out what the angle is, and from there I can work out how to cut this. We'll stick it in the bandsaw and get it chopped up. We might even just do it with a grinding wheel, just because it's quicker and easier, and then we can get to coping. So once I can get that fitted and all lined up sort of centrally on the bike, then we can get the side struts sorted out. Result, things go so much quicker when Steve-O's not helping. Change your mind again. Right, loving the way the seat's going. I think this is going to look really good when it's done. The only trouble is where I've cut it. See, I've been thinking about this overnight, and where I've cut it and joined it here, I've ended up obviously with this is sleeved. It's got another sleeve inside, and it's plug welded and seam welded, strong as anything. But that join is right where Steve-O's going to be sitting, and there's just something niggling away in the back of my mind that says you really shouldn't put Steve-O on the join. So yeah, he's not retaining water, he's retaining chips and burgers and stuff. And I know it's only puppy fat and he will grow into it, but that's a lot of weight to be putting on a join. I know it's going to be braced, but I'm just not happy having a join there. So I'm going to move the join back. Oh God, why didn't I think of that before? It's weird actually, the more you get into it and the more you start fabricating and sticking bits on and various other, you just start noticing different things that you didn't think about before, and that's one of them. So, I've got some more steel coming, and I'm just going to remake these bits, make them a bit longer, and make the join up here. Because he's only ever going to be sitting on this bit. And I just like the idea of that being one solid piece with a Steve-O sat on top of it. Because he is my best mate. And it's got to be strong, it's got to be safe. You know, the world's a lot better place with him in it. I don't want anything happening. The world is a lot better place with him. It's just a bit more crowded, that's all. So, that's what I'm going to do. And it don't matter what the join's here. I know it's still going to be strong as anything. It's still going to be sleeved and all that lot. And this bit is just going to be seat hump. So it's going to take no weight. The lithium battery just weighs nothing. So, you know, that's all cool. So I'm just going to replace those bits. By the way, still I've got coming, it's a little bit thicker wall than this stuff. No reason. Okay, so before I go chopping all this up again, all this is square and true. Same measurement from there to there as it is to here. Know that, I've measured it quite a few times. And I want to get a supporting beam, like a spreader, that's going to go there. And there's going to be another one down probably here somewhere as well. But we'll stick that one in later. So what I want to do is, we're probably going to be chopping it off and putting the new sections in, I don't know, about here-ish, something like that. And then all this bit will just be one piece, and Steve will be sitting forward to that. So this bit is going to be tough as anything. But I might as well try and get this beam in now. So you can't just weld it up like that because you get a massive gap. So you've got to cope the end of this, which basically means to chop out a little bit so it fits nice and snugly up against the tube. You can see here there's a gap on this and everything. So I'm going to get this bit in first, and this is basically how I'm going to do it. If you saw the earlier video where I go on about tube bending, this is another one of Justin's things. And it's quite a clever idea actually. So anyway, both these bits of tube are the same thickness. We'll stick it on there to kick off with. And basically you want to draw a centre line down the middle of the tube to start off with. This is just the way I'm doing it. There's hundreds of different ways of doing it. Easiest way is with a hole cutter and a coping jig, but I ain't got one of them. So we're doing it this way. So next thing is you want to mark the centre line of this tube, but on this tube. Alright, so that would be about there. I could do it right on the end, but I'm doing it here. Reason being is if you're right on the end, then you're just nibbling away at stuff, whereas if you leave yourself a little bit of room, you get a nice sort of purposeful cut. Then this edge I'm also going to mark on the tube, so we know somewhere in there we're going to need to sort of notch out this sort of shape. Now apparently when you coat this out, it's not going to go halfway on the tube. Reason being is you've got the wall thickness, you're going to have it beveled so you get a decent weld in there, all that kind of stuff. So you know, you're going to have to cut this up a little bit shorter. And the general rule of thumb is 1/3 tube distance. So that's level on the outside of the tube. This line represents that side of the tube, and that's obviously the middle. So what we're going to do is put a mark about third distance, which will make it about there. Right? And then it's just a case of, from the top, you go from that mark to the edges, like that, on both sides. And then if you take your angle grinder with a cutting wheel on it and cut along that line, so you do one cut like that, one cut like that, you'll basically put the cope into it, and it's not going to turn out straight, it's going to kind of follow the curvature of the tube. That's the idea anyway. So once you've done that, this should be not a bad fit against this tube. If I'm honest, I've only ever done this once. There was an awful lot of niggling about and mucking about and trimming up and everything else, which is fine, but this will sort of get you in the ballpark. So that's it. Right, so a little bit of trimming that's needed, obviously. It does come down to the point, but you can hopefully see once I take the corners off it, the very edges, because obviously you've got the thickness of the tube, which is going to catch on the outside edge. But once that's basically trimmed and run out, it should be quite a nice fit. So to do that, I'm just going to use one of these little flappy wheels. Knackered, worn out ones are really good because you kind of wear the edges first rather than the middle bit, so they end up with a radius to them. This one's not that old really. I don't think I've got any really old knackered ones. No, I ain't. But this will do. But once it's all nice and rounded off, you can really sort of get in there and you can get like a nice curve to it. So I'll stick this in the grinder and give that a bash. Anyone who's notched any tube, and like I say, I've only done it a few times, this sort of fabrication isn't something that I normally do, but there is a fair amount of faffing about needed to get it absolutely spot on. You can mark it up all you want, but at the end of the day it only gets you in the ballpark, and it's all this sort of junk that kind of gets you the rest of the way really. Taking little bits at a time, and I don't know if you can see. Can you see that? Hang on, I'll stick it in at an angle. Hopefully you can see this, but it's getting there. Need to take a little bit more off here so it snugs down, and we end up with a tiny little gap all the way around it, and that would be all right to get the weld in. So a little bit more. See, that's not bad. That's good enough. Tiny little gap there, but that'll do. Happy days. So, that is going to fit somewhat like that. And you can see it doesn't go halfway up the tube. Just doesn't do it. That's because of the thickness of the tube that I'm marrying up to it. But that's a nice fit all the way around it. So all we need to do is sort out another one over here. So if you stick that on top of the tube and mark pretty much the end of it where it comes, again it's about a third tube diameter ish. So all we want to do is to mark the same sort of thing on this side. Again, it's only rough, but I'll put my center line in. Mark the outside of the tube, mark the inside of the tube, just so I've got a reference. So if that's our centre point, the third distance is basically there ish, leaving it a little bit that way so I've got room to nibble it down and chew it off and get it just right. And then that is going to be our cut line. So once I get that end done, it should be a nice snug fit. Back to the cutting wheel. Right, top tip. Don't wear shorts if you're doing angle grinding. Your joy department gets really hot. Yeah, before everybody starts going mental at me, so I am wearing safety specs and stuff, but I've got shorts on. Just my own stupid fault. I kind of had a few minutes, so I thought I'd nip in here, but I didn't realise kind of what I'd be getting into. So it's not ideal. The stuff does warm up, but you know, hot stuff and all that. The other thing is I don't run a guard on my angle grinder. It come with one, which is fine, they all do. I just don't like using one. It's personal preference, but I find that with a guard there and everything else, it gets in the way. You can't get into everything that you need to, and sometimes you can't even see what it is that you're grinding, depending on the angle that you're doing it at. So I don't run a guard. So, you know, that's my choice. I am careful with it. I've not had any mishaps. I've not caught fingers and knuckles and all that stuff. I always put it down that way up, which is what you're supposed to do apparently. Just because if you put it that way and for some reason it turns on, the thing's going to fly across the room, which isn't that great. Yeah, I don't run a guard. I know I should, but I don't. The other thing is, when you're doing this, you got to sneak up on it. Don't just go taking massive chunks and things out of it. I've done that before, and you just end up chucking this in the bin. Sneak up on it, little at a time. Try it, fit it, find out where you want to take a bit more off, then take a bit more off, and you just kind of nibble away at it until you get a decent fit. With a hole cutter, with a tube notcher, you just zap it straight through and you get a perfect fit. Done in half the time, but I haven't got one, so I'm having to do it this way. So slow and steady wins the race. Right, so just offering it up now. I am slightly off, which is annoying. What I should have done is use the seam welded bit of the tube as my reference point for the centre, but that's okay because I purposely left it a little bit long. As we can see here, I've probably got like 5mm. I don't know if you can see that, but if you look at that line there and this line there, that's the inside of the tube. And if I look straight down it, which obviously you can't see from where you are, it's about 5mm too long, and this is what I mean by sort of sneaking up on it. What we're going to do is just keep nibbling away until we get that distance, the correct distance between the two tubes. And as I'm sneaking up on it, I can move the cope around if that makes sense. So, and it hasn't got to be the snuggest, most perfect, seamless fit. Excuse me. So I want to get a load of welding there as well, so it's nice and strong. So that side doesn't look too bad. It's this side, I think, where the cope is out. Yes, it is. Quite a lot. So we're just going to keep nibbling away until we get what we want. Right, so don't know if you can see from this, but the profile that way is nice and flat, so it's going to butt up against here, and we've not got a bad fit against the tube. Top of the copings is the same on both sides, so it all lines up, and if you put it on top, I've come just shy of the inside sort of distance here, so we should be able to wangle this in here. There you go. Right, so there is a little bit of wiggle room, which is fine. A little bit of gap isn't a bad thing, because it means I can get a load of weld in there, and it will fill the gap. But if you let me bring you down here. Oh yeah. But you can see hopefully from there, that is a nice snug fit, as is this one. Right? Happy days. So now all I want to do, let's put you where are you? Oh, hello. Right. Might fall on the bench. If it does, I'm sorry. So now all I want to do is to bevel these edges, so I want to put like a 45 degree on them. I don't want to take anything off the overall length of it, I just want to put an edge on it like this all the way around, because that will help the weld get in to both bits of tube and get a nice strong weld. So that is going to go about there. So it kind of finishes off the tail bit and keeps all that nice and sturdy. Then I'm gonna chop it just west of there. Is that west as you're looking at it? Oh, I don't know. That way, to my left, your right. No, your other right. So we'll chop it off here, and when the steel turns up, I'll remake that bit and stick it in there, and then there'll be another one of these sort of further down here somewhere. I will probably try and put it where the bracing comes up. Reason being is this, as soon as you put another bracing beam in here, you've got that tube there, this corner suddenly becomes a real strong point. So if I have the supporting beams come up and they land in the same place, which could make for an interesting cope, but we'll see, then that's going to be really strong. If you were to have this beam there and the supporting one come up, you can see it's in two different places and it's just not as strong. Whereas if you can keep it all together, it's a lot stronger. So that's what we're doing. This is not a how to cope pipe I'm not teaching you anything. This is just my way of doing it because I haven't got a tooth notcher. But I think as you can see it, you know, it's not hard. All you need is a cutting disc and a flat wheel, a Sharpie, and this has taken, I don't know, 10 minutes real time, maybe less. I don't know, something like that. You know, and you can get quite a good result. So you don't need all these fancy tools. You just need a bit of time and a bit of attitude and a willingness to have a go. It's not hard. The only thing I would say is it's better to leave it a little bit long like I did and kind of sneak up on it, just nibble away, a little bit at a time, try fitting it, a little bit at a time, have a look, see where you are, a little bit more, keep going until you get to that sort of thing. And I'm happy with that, that's fine, that's going to do the job. So, let's get that 45 on, the bevel. I can stick that in there, tack it in place so it ain't going to go anywhere, then I can chop these bits off. Right, so I don't need that. Oh, that's my seat hoop. After all that mucking about, this is the only bit I've got to show. Anyway, you can see we've got like quite a nice little fit around here. It's all good. I've tacked it in 4 places on each side. Just to start with the longest ones. I did that on top, so if it's going to pull anywhere, it's going to pull the tube up. And I've tacked it in each of the, you know, the 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So it's only lightly tacked, but it ain't going anywhere, and it's stable in any direction. So when I come to run my welds around it, it's all going to be nice and solid. Still haven't dressed these up, and I'm still waiting for the framing steel to turn up. Actually, I might dress them up whilst I'm waiting for it. Don't need this bit, that's in the bin. I'll just faff about with this and get it how I want it. Still got man flu. Anyway, okay. It is now 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. I'm just going to get this done. I know what I'm doing now. Got all the steel here, everything's sorted, plans there. But I need to get this done. For a couple of reasons, really. If I can get it done today, then I can get all the video and everything else sorted and uploaded for Friday. Because we need to keep Saturday free. We've got something going on. Looks like it's coming off. It is mega new. I'm so looking forward to this, and I'll tell you all about that at the end of the video. But that basically means I've got today to get this sorted. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Start my other job at 3 in the afternoon and work through till 12. So I've got a good chunk of time to get this done, so we're just going to crack on and get it done. So what's going to happen is I'm going to probably put you over there, stick you on time lapse, and you can just see it as it happens basically. You've seen all the techniques about measuring it and cutting it up and bending it and, you know, welding it and coping it and everything else. So you're not really going to miss anything, but it just means I can get my head down and have at it and get the thing sorted. I also want to get it sorted today because I want Steve-O to start thinking about this and making a decision. That is going really Going brown and rusty. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the plan. I'm not wearing shorts today. I learned that lesson yesterday. It did sting a bit. So that's what I'm doing. I'll get you over there and we can have at it. There you go. It's on. Oh yeah. Right. It's all still really, really hot. I've only just tapped it in, so I'm not sitting on it. It is all coped in really nicely though. I've got some nice snug fits with a bevel so I can get welding there. I'm quite pleased with that. Way better than this damn thing. But I'm still going to give him the option. So that's it. That is going to be the seat frame. Everything is bang lined up, dead square. I took a level off the frame here. Got a reference. I did a level here and a level here. And they're all within 0.05 of a degree, which I can live with. These are perfectly in line as well. I've measured them, so it all goes in straight. I found that standing way back and looking at the bike, you kind of think, yeah, that's sort of in line. But putting those two bars either side of the tyre and with just a screw thread between them was brilliant. I was about an inch out. But back there looking at it, you couldn't, you know, you didn't really see it because of all the tubes and everything else in front of it. It just sort of masked it. So by putting up those two levels, I know I come off the rim of the tyre, the edge of the tyre. That can deform a little bit, but mind you, Steve-O never gets on the edge, and these tyres haven't seen a great deal of use, so it's close enough. And I'm really chuffed with it. I think that is going to look business. Strong as houses here. I put the brace where the uprights come, so Steve-O's chunkiness will be sitting here, and that's right in the middle. You ain't going to get any stronger because it's triangulated like that on the sides. We dip in so we get a wider reference up here as well. The supporting beam there. This is over 3mm thick wall thickness. You ain't going to break it. By the time all this is welded and tied in and everything else, I mean, it's sturdy now, just being tapped. But once that's all done, job's a good one. So that's it. I'm going to call it a day because I now have to go off to work. It's 1 o'clock, so I'll get a chance to go home and have a little bit of dinner, and then I'll chip off and get that one done. I was tempted not to put this on the video. I was tempted to make you wait, and Steve-O, because he's on holiday and it would just niggle the hell out of him if he didn't get to see it. Oh, it's so funny. I'll get like 20 text messages an hour. Send me a picture, send me a picture. Anyway, that's what it is. That's what we've done. I really like it. I think it fits the bill. It's going to be great. Little seat hump like that. Scoop down. Up to the tank. That's going to look awesome. It's all in line with the axle. Thereabouts. It's just what we wanted. Right. So I'm going to call it there for the day on this. I did say earlier on and in the last video that we have got some awesome looks, and it is awesome. You would know by now if you've watched any of the others that we picked up a load of subscribers from Andy, and one of those was Craig Jones from the channel One Yer Bike, and it is just like my favourite channel ever. It is brilliant. I love that man's work. Anyway, we've been chatting on Messenger, and he's invited us up to the Shed of Dreams. So on Saturday, which is why we were keeping it free, Steve-O and me are off to the Shed of Dreams, and we're going to see his latest build and have a look at the ET1100 Turbo and pick his brains and ask lots of stupid questions for hours until he kicks us out. I'm so looking forward to this. It is going to be a trek up from here. I'll have, like, I don't know, in total 7 or 8 hours travelling, I suppose, and then whatever time I get to spend there, but it's so going to be worth it. Steve-O's on holiday at the minute. He's chipped into his holiday so he can come along as well. That's how much it means to us. So what we'll do is we'll take the cameras up. We'll show you around the shed. We'll ask lots of stupid questions. If there's anything you want to know, chuck us a comment. I'll print them out and I'll take a list up with me and try and get answers to everything that we want. But to spend a day with the man himself, that is going to be brilliant. I'm really looking forward to that. He's going to be kicking us out by the end of it because we've got so many questions to ask him. And I'm going to ask all of them, I don't care. Not every day you get to go to the Shed of Dreams. So anyway, there you go. Hope you like it, hope you think it fits. We'd love to know your comments actually. Some of the comments are really cool. But you know, let us know what you think. Ignore the welds at the minute because it's all got to be cleaned up. But I think once it's dressed up, it's going to look really, really good. Really good. Anyway, hope you can join us in the next video. That'll be from the Shed of Dreams. Maybe Sunday or Monday it'll go up, something like that. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed. That is Peter. 385 I think we're on now. Which is so cool. So thank you everybody for your comments and for joining us for the ride. And hope you can join us next time. And until then, laters!